Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me.
Good morning. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz, KSQD 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. I am Catherine Bell, and this is the Dream Journal, a weekly show where we explore the healing powers of your nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you. Yes, here we are, the beautiful music of Rick Kleffel, multi-talented man, creating this music for us as well as engineering the show. Thank you, Rick. In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Do you sometimes find yourself lost in thought? Maybe that's a good thing. Stay with us today as we speak with Doris Snyder and discuss her new book, Daydreaming, The Beauty and Power of a Wandering Mind. Stay tuned. This is Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is also a podcast, so you can look for that in all of your regular podcast places, and also on the KSQD website. And you can find us there at ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. Look for the Dream Journal, review it, and subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend or two. Who else in your group is interested in dreams? Let them know about the Dream Journal. It really helps people find the show. So I'm starting as usual with my dream work. What have I been working on lately? What dreams have been speaking to me? You know, dreams are very personal, and I always like to start with my personal dream work. So a dream that's really coming to me lately is one where I'm in this country where I'm with my dog and another dog who's the friend. It belongs to a friend of mine who actually died several years ago, is there too. And she's alive and well, and her name is Brenna. And we are playing together, and there's some friends there, and the other dog, Charlie. So there's all these things that are really fun. I really just felt like kind of connected and joyful. But then for some reason, we're next to the scene shifts, and we're all getting on a boat. And the boat's having all kinds of trouble. People are underneath the dashboard trying to fix the whatever needs to make it go, and then the boat starts sinking. It's like, and I'm just frantic trying to get this boat going again. And that's when I woke up. And so one of the things I've been mulling over is like, well, why did I need to leave? Like, what's so important that I needed to go somewhere else rather than being in this place where I can feel connected? So like, you know, sometimes when something happens in a dream and I'm prevented from doing what I want to do, and maybe I can ask myself the question, maybe I don't need to go do that thing. Like, maybe it's just fine to stay where I am. And also maybe it's a little hard to stay where I am. Maybe it's a little edgy to be in a place where I can feel loved, you know, so maybe that's part of what, you know, sometimes when breakdowns happen, that there is something that's calling to me and saying, maybe just stay put. Maybe you don't need to go anywhere. And notice how scary it is to stay put in this place where I feel loved and connected. Doris Snyder is a professional dream coach and author of Numbers and Dreams. Her holistic and creative approach to dreams has led clients and conference attendees to greater understanding of their dreams. She is a member of the IASD, the International Association for the Study of Dreams, and is a workshop presenter at their annual conferences. Her new book is called Daydreaming, The Beauty and Power of a Wandering Mind, and you can connect with Doris at her webpage, dorissnyder.com, DORISSNYDER.com. So Doris, hello.
Hello, Catherine. Great to be with you.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you on the air. We had Doris on the air about a year ago when her book about numbers in dreams came out. But today our focus is going to be on daydreaming. So I'm curious about daydreams, and I wonder if you could tell us a little about how you first got interested in studying them, Doris.
All right. Well, first I'd like to just say welcome to all the daydreamers that are listening in. I want to make sure that they understand and know that daydreaming is healthy, normal, and a big sign of creativity. But I got into, well, I guess I should backtrack a little. I'm sure, no doubt, many of you listeners were daydreamers as children, and if you're like me, there was a real stigma, negative label to being a daydreamer. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. You were, you got the message, you were a space cadet, you're in La La Land, and you were admonished to get your head out of the clouds. But for me, it was my safe space. It was my place to go to, just be free and help process the outer world. And so, you grow up and you don't think about daydreaming as I did. And then more recently, I started reading about particularly tech companies that give their employees space out times.
Huh.
And essentially, it's a space where people can go in solitude and daydream, mind wander, whatever you call it, because they know the value of daydreaming. So for me, after reading that, I was talking with a friend, and she was talking about, she's a big daydreamer. And so I decided, you know what, this really speaks to me. And I want to understand why I daydream, what's its purpose, what happens in our brain when we daydream, what can we learn from our daydreams? And so I decided to research this, and the book is the product of that. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a scientist, so this book does not go into scientific detail. There are plenty of other authors who do, but it really is for lay people to understand what happens with daydreaming, and why it is so important.
Interesting. Well, there is, I have read, I think it's Daniel Hartman, who proposed that daydreaming and dreaming and focused thought are all parts of a continuum, where you have focused thought on one end, and then daydreaming and reverie on in the middle, and then nighttime dreaming on the other end, so that there is some kind of a connection, and maybe we access a similar part of our brain when we're daydreaming.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Catherine. What I discovered is that, when daydreaming invariably happens when we're doing kind of mindless or routine tasks. You're folding laundry, you're walking. Unfortunately, happens to many of us when we're driving. Mm-hmm. But we are conscious, but we go into a more slightly detached state. And so the brain shifts into what is now called the default mode network. And the default mode network is this place, a network, actually it consists of several networks in the brain. When you go from focused thinking to tuning out. And what turns on is what is called the creative network. It's where memories, ideas, feelings, making abstract connections are activated. So this is why daydreaming is associated with innovation and creativity, because your brain is freer and utilizing other networks within the brain.
Now that's very interesting. So there's the value is that you're kind of letting your brain have some space. Is that what I'm hearing? That you're not focusing on like doing a particular problem or something, and so the less conscious parts of the brain get a chance to really kick in. I'd never heard of the creative network.
Yes, it's referred to as the creative network as well, because it's not it's not the executive focus portion of the brain, which is needed when we do very specialized tasks, like when a surgeon does surgery. He or she obviously is utilizing executive function. And that's the paradox of daydreaming, is that the ability to generate novel or imaginative ideas is results from daydreaming and not executive focus. So this message when I was a child in school was, snap out of it, pay attention. Well, actually, that I was, and that's the message in schools, unfortunately, that continues. But daydreaming is fertile ground for creativity and innovation.
That's really amazing. So actually, one thing I'm noticing is that I have a tendency to play a podcast or something when I am doing kind of these rote tasks that you talked about, and I realize that what I'm doing is I'm kind of shutting off my daydreaming. Or am I? Well, I guess that's a question. I mean, am I, or am I allowing, is the daydreaming happening on a deeper level? Because I pick podcasts that don't take a lot of attention either. So I have like the task I'm doing, and then whatever podcast kind of rumbling. So I don't know if that's blocking the daydream or if it's just driving it to a deeper level. Do you have any sense of that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Catherine. Yeah. Invariably, and I have a whole chapter on this in the book, on famous people who were big daydreamers and what resulted from their daydreaming. The scientists like Einstein and Newton and Freeman, and writers like J.K. Rowling, and film directors. George Lucas was a big daydreamer. Yeah. And essentially what's needed is the one thing that is hard for some people is, in a sense, to just shut off all the technology and just let your mind wander.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm gonna mull over why I have resistance to that, because and so when we come back, I want to get some specific advice from you of how to start a daydreaming practice. I've tried and failed for years to start a meditation practice, but maybe I can start a daydreaming practice, and maybe that will be helpful. So I want to let everyone know that this is Doris Snyder, and we will play a little piece of music here. We'll be back in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk a lot more about daydreaming. And also in about 25 minutes, I will be opening the phone, so you'll be able to call in. So you might want to jot that number down now. That number is 831-900-5773, and you can share a dream, or you can share a daydream for that matter. And or you can ask us a question. You can also send an email to Rick, who's manning the board at Santa Cruz, and the email address there is onair@ksqd.org. So again, that number is 831-900-5773. My name is Catherine Bell. Our guest today is Doris Snyder, and you are listening to the Dream Journal on the Squid.
You once thought of me as a white knight on his steed. Now you know how happy I can be. Oh, and our good time starts and ends without dollar one to spend. But how much, baby, do we really need?
right, we are listening to the Dream Journal, and that was Daydream Believer by the Monkees. Was Daydream Believer. Our guest today is definitely a believer in daydreams. Our guest is Doris Snyder. And you are listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. My name is Catherine Bell. And I want to say it's always a good time to donate and support the Dream Journal. Here on the K-Squid, we're all volunteers. You can always send a donation at ksqd.org. Thanks to all who have contributed at our recent pledge drive. And there's always room for you. Tell them the Dream Journal sent you. So Doris. Yes. Daydream Believer. I love that song. The Monkees are part of my childhood. I have that album. I might even still have that album somewhere in a box somewhere.
Mm-hmm,
So tell us, how can we improve our daydreaming? How can we become better at mind wandering?
Well, I think that if you think of it, like you started out with, daydreaming is on the spectrum of dreaming.
Yeah.
And so it's, we all have been challenged, or many of us have been challenged to recall our dreams. Is in a sense to set your intention. The good news with daydreams, unlike night dreams, is we're conscious, we're awake.
True.
So we have, there's more opportunity for awareness. So I always tell, as I do with dreaming, is set your intention in that you'd like to start paying attention when you daydream, when you find yourself daydream. And believe it or not, Catherine, the science says that we daydream nearly a third to 47% of the day.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
And it's because daydreams run the gamut. It can be as mundane as recalling your grocery list to, sheer fantasy, long daydreams. And I think we find ourselves, we don't think about this, but for example, you may find yourself reading a book or listening to a podcast, but you're not listening. Your mind has wandered somewhere else. That's daydreaming.
Okay. So I don't need to worry about that. I mean, maybe I am doing some daydreaming while I'm listening to the podcast, since that does happen pretty frequently.
Yeah, of course, because it's a natural thing in our brain, natural function of the brain.
Huh. So you're suggesting that we notice the times when we do daydream, when we do start mind wandering, and then is there anything you recommend to kind of deepen the practice?
Yeah, I have in my book, I recommend, as I said, set your intention, be gentle, relax. Some people it's harder to, turn off the electronics and just, daydream. And so I encourage people to set an atmosphere. It may be that you soak in the bathtub or, listen to good music and, pay attention to, where your mind is going and wandering and let it go. And just like with night dreams, create a journal. What did I daydream about?
Ooh,
and
that's
start
interesting.
recording the details of it.
Oh, very interesting. So I've been mulling over lately. What is the purpose of thought? And daydreaming is certainly a kind of thought. And one of the things that seems to me is that they kind of highlight the things that are important, like, oh, don't forget to put out the trash, or whatever. And so the daydreaming may be not as directive, but surely we're wandering over into things that are important.
Oh, absolutely. And I talk about that in the book, is when you find yourself daydreaming about, say, a job promotion or a certain type of relationship. This is, just like night dreams, a message to you that this is important. And so, like night dreams, what actionable things can I do to move me closer to what I really what I really want in my life, and be intentional perhaps in some of the behaviors to get you to that point. One of the things I discuss in the book is the ability to take, be more intentional. And, daydreams can give us insights into patterns of thought we may not be aware of, and some of them may be negative. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the key values of daydreaming, because once you have that awareness, well, then you can do things to alter it. And in fact, I'm hoping, I interviewed a friend of mine, Katie Mason, who is has a successful counseling practice in Denver, and she incorporates dream work in her practice, but she also incorporates daydreaming.
Yeah, Oh, very interesting.
I'm hoping she'll call in so she can describe that process with her clients. But it really is about empowerment of just like with dreams, what is it that is going on in your inner life that you may be stuck with? You're stuck in those thought patterns, and you'd like to change it.
So this is the value of keeping a daydreaming journal, is that you can bring into consciousness, into the ideas that bubble up when we're
Absolutely.
daydreaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gives us that distance connection to what we're feeling and what is important.
So just like with dreaming, do you recommend setting an intention sometimes? Maybe not all the time, but like have.
Sure.
I mean, that's a little odd, right? Because that makes it in the more directive phase. We don't want to say, well, let me think about this for a little while.
Well,
Or can you? What do you think?
When I say intention, it's like, well, I'm never aware that I'm daydreaming.
Right.
There's many people who don't, but they're doing it. And so how do you become conscious of that? And so that's why I recommend, doing something that shuts off the technology, gets you, either outdoors and a walk, laying down, getting comfortable, like taking a soak in the bath, but in a sense where you're allowing yourself to be aware of what is going on in your mind. And now some people, it's a challenge, and I provide in the book possible things to daydream about, things like, I won the lottery, what would I do?
Oh, fun.
Best vacation ever, your future. One of the things that scientists have found is that daydreaming has a prospective viewpoint, meaning we daydream about what we want to have in our life, where we want to go, what are our goals. And so from that perspective, daydream is a wonderful tool to help make that, give us awareness and move us forward with that.
Yeah, I can see how that could help to focus our goals, even though the daydreams are sometimes pretty outlandish, like flying to the moon or something, but there can be some awareness of like what is valuable. Like maybe there's something I want to get away from that I wasn't that aware of until I had this daydream.
Well, that's right. And there's a lot of people have longings in their daydreams. I wish I could. I wish I had. I wish I could, quit this job and move on. And don't, it's there in their unconscious, and in their daydreams. So what do you want to do about it? how can you move beyond that? And that's the beauty of both night dreams and daydreams. We can empower ourselves to create the change that we want.
Right. So even by making a really big daydream, we can still take very small steps toward realizing a better future.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is very exciting. I must say I'm very curious to hear from Katie Mason. So I'm thinking maybe that we'll start the call-ins a little earlier than usual today, if that's okay with you, Doris.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love it. I'd love Katie
Okay.
to be on.
Okay, if she could kind of be in on the conversation since she has a lot of experience with daydreaming clients and herself daydream. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was someone who mentioned shadow daydreaming.
Ooh, I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, which deals with our shadow work.
Right. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead to our second break? So this is the Dream Journal, and you are listening to the K-Squid 90.7 FM, Community Radio of Santa Cruz. My name is Catherine Bell, and our guest today is Doris Snyder, and we're talking all about daydreaming. So now the phones are now open. So the number to call is 831-900-5773. And Rick Kleffel will be on hand to connect you to the board. And you can also send an email to Rick at onair@ksqd.org. We'll be right back with Doris Snyder. And Rick, go ahead and play The Lovin' Spoonful.
What a day for a daydream. What a day for a daydreaming boy. And I'm lost in a daydream, dreaming about my bundle of joy. And even if time ain't really on my side, it's one of those days for taking a walk outside. I'm blowing the day to take a walk in the sun and follow my face on somebody's new mode lawn. I've been having...
Welcome to pick up the phone. The number to dial is 831-900-5773. That's 900 KSQD in the Santa Cruz area. Or you can send an email to onair@ksqd.org. So Doris.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for call-ins, and we'll see. Maybe Katie will call, and I think you had another person possibly lined up. You never know; people might be having issues, but let's just carry on. So, what was the most surprising thing that you learned about daydreams?
I think that the number, how much it benefits us.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about the benefits in the book, besides the one that I talked about earlier about creativity and innovation, but it's helpful with problem solving, goal setting. It promotes healthy childhood development. Mm-hmm. It contributes to brain efficiency, helps us manage conflicts and relationships.
Oh, wow.
And in children, it helps make meaning. And of course, it can spice up relationships. I know for myself, my personal experience, speaking from my own perspective, daydreaming has been invaluable for me in terms of managing conflict in relationships, in that, I can get, particularly when I was younger, I'd get overwhelmed emotionally when I felt wronged or misunderstood or not listened to. And so my daydreams provided that safe place for me to rehearse conversations, allow myself to say what I was feeling. And so it really, and then I could go back to the person and more calmly articulate what was going on for me.
Right. Okay. So I can see that's very beneficial to practice. But we have to be careful of not rehearsing grievances, of course, which is that's not helpful.
That's
Hey,
right.
so Doris, I hear Katie is on the air. Are you there, Katie? Can you hear us?
I can. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great. Good to hear from you, Katie. Katie's a friend of mine as well. She's been on the show before, maybe twice now, and was the star of the last Dream Festival. So good to have you.
Yes. Nice to be here.
Okay, so Doris says that you've been working with clients' daydreams, especially around the shadow.
Yeah. So I welcome their daydreams into the work I do in my practice as much as I do their nighttime dreams, because I find that sometimes, Doris mentioned this earlier in the show, that sometimes people don't remember their dreams upon waking, like their nighttime dreams, but we can all pretty much have access to a daydream in some form or another. And I honestly work with them pretty similarly. I work with nighttime dreams pretty similarly as I do daydreams. Because to me, they are kind of, different sides of the same coin, so to speak. I heard you mention earlier, it's kind of like a spectrum that we find them on. And I could agree with that too. But I find that the material is just as ripe as a nighttime dream.
And maybe it accesses a very similar part of the brain, because it's not the really focused prefrontal cortex part, but if it accesses a deeper part of the brain, then maybe that'll have the similar function as dreaming does. And as you say, not everybody remembers their dreams. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find that just like with dream work, like with evening dreams or nighttime dreams, I just think of them as like access points to some deeper subconscious healing, basically. So I'm not overly analytical in my approach. It's more of an experiential approach where I use a lot of things like guided meditation, for example, where I can get people to settle into the imagery that is evoked in the daydream, and then we can start dialoguing. I did that recently with a client around, she kept having a daydream about a TV character, and I can't remember the character, but I guess it's a very famous TV show. I hadn't seen it, but a lot of people knew it. And we were able to, she would find herself in these long daydreams where she was spending time with this person, hanging out with this person, the character, not the real person. And through that, we were able to uncover actually a lot of grief that was underneath that. Her just desiring a certain kind of connection in her life. And it was this really beautiful, healing thing. And she just thought it was some flippant, random, oh, this is funny, I'm thinking about. It must be, people say this a lot, it must be because I watch this show all the time. That I'm
right. People dismiss these things because, it's just because I watch that show. But why did you choose that character? There's always something important there.
Yep. I always say that. It's like, well, we consume a lot of material and content all the time that's not filtered into our dreams. So why was that particular character? Yes.
Oh, I like that. Actually, I'm thinking about some of my own daydreams that I hadn't really thought of in that way. It's just like, this person pops into my head, or this thing just pops into my head. And I kind of like the idea of keeping a daydreaming journal. I might have to start to write down a few of these things and kind of, be curious about that.
Yeah, that was such a great suggestion, Doris, because I've never thought of that either, actually. I don't track them formally in the way that I do my nighttime dreams, but I think I'll encourage clients to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, this one, I love that. Katie and Doris, I want to let you know that we have another caller on the line, and if it's okay, I think I'd like to invite her just to say hello, and we can all... we can chat.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So here's Gelva from North Carolina. If you can hear us, say hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay. Hey, Doris, it's Gilda speaking.
Hey, Gilda.
All right. So I have a question for you. I've done some regular dream work with you, and you're so good with that. And your book is wonderful about daydreaming and the talk today. Can you, in some way, you've sort of done this, talk a little bit about the connections? I hear Katie did a little bit of that, but your connections with daydreaming and regular dreaming. Where do you see some connections in there that a person would have?
I think first off, it's the when you start having an awareness, and that comes with journaling. Some people can do it, without it, but generally with journaling, is you become aware of the reoccurring night dreams and the reoccurring daydreams. And as I've always said, the recurring things are the things that essentially our unconscious is saying, this continues to bother you or continues to be on your mind. So let's explore this. Let's go into this and figure that out. And that's what I love about this learning about daydreaming. It's like everything was focused on night dreams. Well, here we have something that is also true during the day, and it offers us the same healing, the same opportunity to explore these things that are important to us.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Doris. I really appreciate that. So thank you, and thank you, Catherine. Yes.
Yeah, Gilda, I wonder do you have any daydreams that you have that you feel comfortable sharing? Of course, that would you'd like to share that just to kind of get some idea of some examples of what kind of daydreams people have.
Oh gosh, I think I daydream so much. I'm laughing because I'm such a daydreamer, and I'm an avid night dreamer, and I journal a lot. So if I have any thoughts that come up, say for example, I'm working on something because I write. I'm a writer. And something comes up about a particular concept that sort of is in my conscious mind or is in my mind. I'll just jot it down. Like for example, like I will be in my studio and a thought will come, and I'll just start writing it, and it'll work itself into a poem because I don't overanalyze it. I just let it write itself. So for example, the other day I was thinking about just an experience I had traveling from up north to North Carolina, and it was about walking into a bathroom at Love's, which is a gas station back here. I don't know if it's out there, and so I thought of that, and I didn't analyze it. I just immediately went right to a piece of paper or to my computer. I think in that case I went to my journal and wrote it down right away. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So like I hear that you kind of are already keeping a daydream journal, that you keep little thoughts and not using them as a basis for poetry.
Yes, absolutely, yes. So I don't analyze it. It's just like when you wake up from a dream. I just put it down and write as much as I can about it.
I like that idea, and that's a very good reminder, Gilda, that we shouldn't analyze our daydreams any more than we should analyze our night dreams, and that there's just things that come from us, and we should just I can try to regard them as a gift. Like, here's this gift from my unconscious, and I don't need to understand it even, just I can receive it.
Yes. And, I was really excited with this daydream book when it was coming out, when Doris had told me about it, because I used to get in trouble, like Doris talked about, in school when I was a kid, and the nuns would say, she's daydreaming again. She'd tell my mother, like that was something wrong. So when I talked to Doris about it, she handed me the value of that, which was wonderful.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of people, Doris, who are going to really appreciate this new way of looking at daydreaming.
Oh, I hope so. It really is affirming. And, and in the course of writing the book and interviewing people like Katie, what I loved is how they talked about their own daydreaming life. And I know Katie nurtures it, and maybe she would like to say a couple words about how she does that and how it works for herself.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I really appreciate Gilda's idea of the poetry, because I love to write poetry. I'm actually thinking about there's a daydream. I get my daydreams come mostly on my walks, and that my time on my walks is sort of, it's a rich time for me. That's all I can say is I look forward to noticing where my mind wanders to. And it's always on my walks or in the shower. I would say those are the two main places, but mostly the walks. And I'm actually, noticing this daydream is late. It kind of makes me laugh because it's a little, I'll just share it. It just feels funny. But I'm I'm in a club, like walking in a club, and I just look really, really good. And on my walk, and maybe it's because I'm also on my walk when I'm thinking about this, but I'm like, I have this strut where I'm like strutting through this club, and I just feel super confident and like really powerful. And it's like I just walk up into the bar and kind of take a seat, or I walk up to the stage, or there's always like just directedness to it. And then there's always lately there's been like this ex-boyfriend that sees me or something, and I'm like, yeah, look how good I look.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, but like, I know there's a lot there, that it isn't just my mind creating this like fantasy of me looking and feeling good. I think it's, probably layered with a lot of things, but it also feels good when I'm in it. So I just noticed that. But I also kind of feel like maybe I'm just going to write a poem about being in the club and what comes from that.
Oh, thank you, Katie. I love that. That's great. And if it feels good and it's not hurting anybody, why not, right?
Right. But I also know from my experience working with clients that it's not random that I keep having this sort of daydream. So there's something else there for me. It's not just flippant or frivolous or random. There's something else that I'm working out by my mind kind of defaulting to that one specifically, because that isn't something I think about regularly. So this is sort of a new thing.
It reminds me a little of the kind of the performance that you gave at the Festival of Dreams a couple of years ago of talking about being in a club. You're in your tomato suit. And just
it was an apple.
Apples. I don't know. It was an apple. Sorry, apple. But there was just like a confidence. You just walked in there and you were like, "This is who I am, and I'm happy to be here. Let's go." And like that kind of energy is something that I see in you, Katie. Waking life.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do feel that there's like a call to that again, maybe, or it's been a very introverted time with COVID, and it hasn't been this big. Things are starting to the last several months kind of come back alive, but it could be calling me to that, or calling me to be seen, just wanting to be seen in that. A club is a very public place, and kind of the aliveness of a club. There's a lot of energy, fun, music, and I do feel like a desire for that kind of aliveness.
Right.
That's awesome.
Thank you. That's great example of a daydream and how to work with it, how to like explore it and kind of unpack it and be curious without being judgmental.
Absolutely. I think I think that invitation to go deeper into ourselves and discover, be creative, to connect, and have fun. I mean, I consider Katie a very brave person because she just lets her creativity explode on stage. It's amazing.
That's wonderful. Yeah, well, I got to tell you, Katie, actually, that I just drove through Denver this morning. I know you live in the Denver area, and I'm sitting in a parking lot in Idaho Springs and thinking how close we are. An interesting synchronicity here that I didn't make the connection when Doris said you'd be calling in, that I'd be right close to where you are.
Wow, that's so amazing. I love that.
Wonderful synchronicity. So I'm wondering, I wanted to say hi to Gilda and thank you so much for calling in. I don't want to just leave you hanging there. And I wonder if there's anything else that you want to throw out in the conversation, Gilda.
No, I think this is great. I just love hearing. I loved hearing Katie having that daydream while she's walking, because I love the walking and I love being in that shower too. I get all these ideas, but I love the scene that she was able to be walking and still strutting. I thought that was really powerful. It's definitely a poem.
Yeah, there's a poem in there for sure. Thanks for calling, Gilda.
Thank you, Gilda.
Okay.
You're welcome, Doris.
All right. So and Katie, thank you so much for calling in too. It's great to have you. We have just 4 or 5 more minutes, and I wonder, Doris, do you have something you want to get into, or do you want to throw it back to Katie? We have just a few minutes left in the show. Time always flies.
If I may, if Katie wants to say anything, go for it, Katie. I have just one thing that I do want to share.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll finish up with Katie, and then we'll come back to Doris for finishing up. So this is Katie Mason. I think there's nothing confidential here. Katie's been on a show with me a few times. Do you want to tell folks how to get in touch with you as well, Katie?
Sure, you can just find me. My website, it's katiemason.com, KATIEMASON.com. That's probably the best place. And I just want to thank Doris for her book and for her bringing more attention to the daydreaming, because I do think it's an underutilized resource. And I bring it into my practice, but I also want to continue to make it more of an emphasis even after this discussion, because I'm just being reminded of how much material we have all the time that we can be playing with and working with. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Katie. Maybe we'll get you back on the show here in a little bit.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
So Doris Snyder, what do you have for us?
Well, Catherine, I'd like to just say that, in summary, the book began with a desire to show that daydreaming is not trivial, it's not meaningless, nor a waste of time. And in the process of writing the book, I discovered daydreaming is essential. It's an essential part of ourselves, and it's vital to our well-being, and the science is beginning to prove this. And I would encourage you, Catherine, to set some time aside and go daydream.
I think I will. I'm finding I'm very inspired by this conversation and these ideas. So I certainly will. So your Doris's webpage is dorissnyder.com, DORISSNYDER.com. Is that the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Okay. You can also give out an email or phone number if you like. By this time, we're so deep in the podcast, it's up to you. Or they can go through your webpage.
Doris24Snyder@gmail.com.
Okay. Wonderful. So, and the book is now available? It's been published and out on your webpage and Amazon? Okay, fantastic. Okay, well, thank you so much, Doris. It's been a pleasure to talk with you once again.
Likewise, Catherine.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
So next week we will be exploring once again my current hot topic of ethics and dream work, and how can we have ethical conversation about dreams where we're not telling other people what the dreams mean. And also this applies to spirituality. So we're going to have back on the show Jeff Nelson, who has been on the show before, and he talks a lot about the spiritual side of dreams, and we'll be talking about dreams and spirituality as well as dreams and ethics. So tune in next week for that. You can listen to that broadcast live next Saturday at 10 a.m. or catch the podcast replay, which as always will be released on the Monday following the show. Rick, go ahead and dream us on out of the show.
But I linger on, dear, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear. Just saying.
I am Catherine Bell, and this has been the Dream Journal. Thanks for listening. You can find out more about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com, and you can email me at catherine@ksqd.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. If you have a dream you're curious about, do contact me so I can sign you up for a free introductory dream consultation. And thank you to everyone who has left a review on Apple Podcasts. I'm so glad you are enjoying the show. Feel free to hop on over to Apple and give me some stars or a review there as well. I'd like to thank my hardworking engineer, Rick Kleffel, and again, my hardworking phone answerer, Tony Russimano. It's so wonderful to have that backup. And thank you to all those donors who donate at ksqd.org. That's all for the Dream Journal. Join me again next Saturday at 10. And when you wake up tomorrow morning, take a minute to look within. Do you remember a dream? Write it down and bring it to the next Dream Journal. Are you ready to wake up to the power of your dreams? I am Catherine Bell, and you are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz.